Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3. We made it to episode 3 of the Table
Yep.
Podcast. We are here. My name is Nick Hand, joined by my brother, Drew. He's here where we have the bright, vibrant hoodies we're wearing. If you're listening, you can't see them, but I want you to imagine just like very, very bright. The brightest of boys. Yeah. That's who we are. And Miggy couldn't make it today, so we got Taser Beam sitting in over here.
Amen, brother.
There he is. And Taylor, Miguel couldn't be here. Miggy Azalea couldn't be here because he had some business to tend to. He had to take his kid to the doctor, right? That's what he had to do. And his wife, Sharissa Serrano, just calling her out on the podcast. She wasn't very happy. And so he was like, sorry, guys, got to go. But Taylor jumped in as a pinch hitter, and he represents the younger generation.
Switching up our demo.
Hey, isn't it funny? You know what? We have like pastors and people in church work to listen to this podcast. You know what cracks me up? When like pastors are talking about the next generation and then the guys are like 40, the ones that they're talking about. I was watching this, they had like a young communicators weekend. Like, man, we're so glad about all our young communicators. And they were like all 40, 35-year-old 40. Nothing against 35 and 40-year-olds, but you know, hey, pastors, no, that's not the next generation. Taylor is the next generation.
Yeah, that's it.
And he knows what's cool. What's cool these days? Like, what's?
You know, you can't make things cool.
Okay, you can't force it.
They were just like, they arise, and when they arise, you jump on the wave.
Yeah.
The wave.
What's the newest wave right now, though? Like, what's the wave right now?
The wave right now, I would say, would be
There's too many things.
There's like too many ways. Like what direction?
What's your catchphrase? Like, what's the cool catchphrase that you're using right now?
Right now, I'm using yee
Yee.
yee.
And this means what?
Like when someone's like, "Hey, what's up, Taylor?" I'm like, yee.
Yee. I like it. We can make T-shirts out of that and stuff.
Hey.
What's another one?
Another one is like when someone's like saying something, you're like, "No, you don't." Like you say it really cool.
You just say
like say something.
Okay, like I don't know, like we're sitting here doing a podcast.
No, we're not.
What's the
It's
point?
just obnoxious.
That's the
It's
point.
just-
It's so obnoxious.
It just catches people off guard.
Yeah, no, we're not. Like the purpose is to like stop them in their tracks.
Yeah.
Really?
That's so rude.
That's so very rude. You just got to be able to keep up. Is it lame though? Can you tell when people are trying to be young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can definitely point them out.
And they just shouldn't do that, right?
Stay in your age bracket.
Just stay in your age bracket because you can stay young, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because think about it. Today on the podcast we have special guest Laura Lentz, who needs no introduction, but he's cool.
Yeah,
you know what I
he's
mean?
Cool. You could tell.
Like no one thinks like, dude, you need to act your age. You don't think that about Laura Lentz, right? Right, Taylor? Do you guys think that?
I think he's cool.
Yeah, he is cool because he makes it work.
He's got street cred.
He's got street cred. Yee. Yeah. He definitely does. Hey, want to say thank you for all the support for the Table Podcast. We've had great response and continue to help us spread the word. Tell your friends, subscribe. We also are on YouTube. Oh, that's my son. Levi, come back in here. Come here. In fact, come here. You want to say something on the microphone? Come here. Come tell everybody. Come here. It's just a little impromptu.
Let's go,
This is Levi. We call him Leaves. Why don't you tell everybody? He's a musician. Tell everybody tell him hi first.
Hi,
What's your name?
Levi.
Levi what?
Levi.
Levi Arkeohan. What's your favorite song?
Beaver.
Believer by Imagine Dragons. Okay, sing a little bit for him. Believer. Ready, go.
Beaver.
Huh?
Pain. Da 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 da. Beaver.
Uh-huh.
Beaver.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What other songs do you like? What's another song you like?
I can't sip about it.
You can't think about it?
No.
You know what's funny is like he talks about Imagine Dragons. Like, dude, growing up, we're not allowed to listen to secular music at all.
Really?
Like at all. Like I remember my dad. Like one time I was driving down the road in my Jeep with my cousin Nate, and my dad. We were driving on like a trip. We were listening to Dave Matthews Band. It was like when DMB was like really hot, and then my dad like pulled over and he like walked back to the window. We rolled down the window and he's like, "Hey boys," we're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Just remember, no secular music." We're like, "Gosh." My parents are hardcore. They were hardcore. They did some hardcore things. They changed over the years though. You know what I mean? Like they were tougher
Oh, yeah.
They were tougher on me than they were my younger
you got
brother.
the
I'll tell you
Well,
that much.
I remember changing like song titles, like listening to Hawthorne Heights. Remember that brand?
Yeah.
And I remember changing
Hawthorne Heights.
every
Taylor,
track title.
you don't know who Hawthorne Heights is.
I don't know who any of these
what
people are.
he doesn't even know what emo is.
So funny.
Okay, so wait. So what were you saying? So you changed?
I would change the like titles to like worship song titles.
Oh
you know what I mean?
gosh! So that to trick them out, to fake them out.
Yeah, because they would do like iPod checks and things like that.
iPod checks.
You want to make sure you only got that Chris Tomlin.
Gosh.
I remember one time in grade school around Halloween time at school, we were making these ghosts like out of wood, but you had to like, it was like $5 a person. So they sent like a parent release form. You had to get it signed off. My parents wouldn't let me make the wooden ghost
Really?
unless I wrote in Sharpie on the ghost, Holy Ghost.
Oh my
I
God.
swear to God. I swear to God.
Wait, how old were you?
This would have been, I don't know, third grade.
Oh my gosh.
So like fast forward and like a couple years ago, we were doing business with this guy locally here in town, and he like owns this big corporation. We were having him make a sign or something. He was like, I think you went to school with my daughter, and I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you're the Holy Ghost kid, right? I was like,
Are you kidding?
No, he remembered. He's like lodged
Yeah.
in his brain.
You're the Holy Ghost kid.
So the Holy Ghost kid. So they try to. It's funny though, as parents go on, like I'm sure my dad and mom are listening, but they act like it didn't happen. Like, oh yeah, right, we didn't do that. Like, yes, you did. Parents,
It made me who I am today.
yeah,
So.
I wouldn't change a thing.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Is your mom hardcore like that?
First time I heard Michael Jackson, I was 13. But did I sneak? Yeah.
yeah, he did. Made him who he is today. Is your mom hardcore, Taylor?
I want to say she's she's hardcore, but
Yeah,
I don't
she is
know.
hardcore.
Like, I don't think she's ever made me write holy on like a
Nah,
rhythm ghost.
she goes easier on you. But hey, do us a favor. Continue to tell your friends. Spread the word. Like, subscribe, comment. It just helps kind of make things continue to go. Also, we're looking for sponsors out there. I mean, I wouldn't turn down a good sponsor. I want to be sponsored by good people, though. You know what I mean? Like I had the meat market today here in town, but we can go on for days. Anyway, Carl, what are you? Gatorade?
Gatorade.
Bang
I know
it.
you're watching this.
Yeah, Gatorade. Somebody. We're gonna celebrate when we get our first sponsor. That'll be a thing. But today on the podcast, you're gonna enjoy this one. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to it. Carl Lentz. Man, there is no one greater. He is just an incredible, not just preacher, communicator. He's an author. Started Hillsong NYC, but beyond all that, beyond the accolades, he is the realest of the real. Just like one of the best human beings, in my opinion, on the face of the planet. Love him, admire him, look up to him, and I just think it's just awesome what he stands for and the way that he lives his life. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I know that you're going to love it. Without further ado, Carl Lentz.
First the barricade, now the table.
You don't really like headphones that much, huh?
I don't mind them.
You don't mind them? I've seen you on a few radio shows, and you're like, do we have to use these?
Depends on what they're doing with them. 'Cause sometimes they got producers in there, and I hate that.
Oh, you can hear them talking?
They want you to, and I just will be like, I'm not trying. I didn't come here to have your producer.
What do they, like what? What did they?
Try to, like, we're going to come to you in 5 minutes, or maybe, ask this guy, like, just random stuff. Or the sound's bad.
Okay. But they don't, do they preempt you to, say stuff, or? Okay.
But I have really weird hearing because I had vertigo. So sometimes I can hear only background. Like if me and you had a conversation and there was talking in the background, I wouldn't be able to hear you. I could just hear the little low-level combo. So,
How do you get vertigo?
It's an inner ear problem.
It's just random?
There's little crystals in your eardrum that if they fall in the middle, causes you to lose your balance. And your brain starts sending random signals. And that's where vertigo comes from. I didn't know that either.
So you just random, but you get it at random.
Well, they don't know what it's caused by. It can be caused by a head injury, something that jars your head, in whether it's like a hit or something. So I don't know, but I ended up getting surgery for it. I had vertigo for like 6 months. Didn't know.
And so how did you realize it? Just feeling off balance?
Just saw a bunch of doctors.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I had vertigo, but didn't know what to do about it.
And you had to have surgery? Mm-hmm. That's also, is that when have you always worn glasses?
That's when I found out my glasses were like, I've always worn glasses, but I didn't wear them consistently.
Oh, okay.
And then I found out that I was like in dire need because the strain on my eyes was causing adverse reaction to other stuff, and it was bad. Wow. So that's why I recommitted to my contacts and my glasses.
Oh, wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So being in the hot seat.
I also broke my finger 2 days ago.
Wait.
I didn't have time to get it fixed, so I came here.
Why is your...
No joke. And
it's really
as
broken.
I was preaching last night, I was like, I feel it doesn't look as bad as it does when you go like that.
It does look bad.
It feels bad too. So if you're
Well,
if you're
swollen
listening
and
to this
really
podcast
crooked.
and you can't see this,
It's swollen and very crooked, and
it's very
You
painful.
might want to go get that checked.
I will, but I had to come to Fresno to
Thanks.
see
I
you.
appreciate you doing that.
So I was playing ball. I caught a pass, and it just clipped my finger, and I was like, I think I just broke my finger. Played it out. And I went home, and I told my wife, I'm like, I definitely broke my finger. I don't have time to get it checked out. So it's very painful. It looks disgusting.
Well, it's an interesting look. For you, you're...
Try to focus.
I'm trying to, but you hold the fingers up. That's kind of part of your personality though, right? Like you kind of, you seem like you handle crazy stuff well.
Well said. Good transition. I was like, what, are you trying to say I'm crooked?
Personality, a little bit crooked like your finger.
I think rolling with the hand you've been dealt is such a part of our faith, of our life that, I try to, make it matter. And I think our whole theme in New York, like our basketball mantra has always been Hillsong Hustlers, and which freaks out religious people because they don't understand the term. But to hustle is to use something that was sent to you one way, change it, send it back another. So, if you're going to give me a broken finger, I'm going to use it in my sermon.
Yeah.
If you're going to give us a church and a nightclub, we're going to use, what we've been dealt and just try to have God, do what he does in it. And it's kind of been our whole thing.
Is it natural for you to do that? Like, is it second nature? Or do you have to consciously decide to respond that way?
I think it's a conscious decision to say, this is what we got to work with, and we're going to make the best of it. So I think it's a trained habit. It's become an attitude for sure, where it's like, I'm going to think about what I can do with this first, complain second.
Yeah.
And hopefully if you get enough of part one, part two never comes. But I think you can train yourself to not complain and to go, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether that's from a diagnosis, whether that's being a pastor and looking at your church going, you know what, we don't have a lot of this, but we can use this. Or whether it's walking into work on Monday going, hey, it's not my dream job, it's
Right.
my now job.
Right.
I'm going to make it my dream. That's a choice.
For you, where does that come from, or where did that start? One thing I've noticed about listening to you speak or communicate or just talk in life in general is there's a lot of things that I would personally be inspired by, but for me they're not habit yet. It's not just like a muscle memory. When I talk with you, there's certain things that just seem like our muscle memory. What you're talking about right now is one of them. It's like you don't even realize that you're doing it. You broke your finger and then you're just showing up and we're going to get through it. It's just part of life and what's happening.
Yeah.
When did that become habit? Do you think that starts for you? Is that,
Man, you said something awesome in your cool truck yesterday about you think about what you don't think about. What you think about it was really trippy the way you said it, and I loved it. I was like, "Oh, that's a podcast material." In church, sometimes we find a way to make things that are simple sound so complicated.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to how you form your habits, it takes a lot of work, and people don't want that.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that. So most people are like, "Pray for me."
Right.
I want change. I want my breakthrough. Here's $19.99. Give me my 4 hankies and my 3 prayer cloths. And I want to be different. And it's like, cool, I can give you prayer and a hanky and miracle water, all that stuff you can get late night Christian television. But the truth is, you have to train yourself, and it takes a lot of work to do that. I'm not going to look at it this way. I'm going to look at it this way.
Yeah.
And you have a routine, you have a reward, you have a system, and your brain functions that way. It's really practical. A lot of it's not even spiritual. The spiritual thing is the decision to do it, but the practicality of just training yourself to do, create and form habits that are going to change your life, it takes work.
But have you always been like that?
No, I think when you have a lot on the line, it's amazing how hard you'll work for stuff.
Yeah.
So if my habits affect my attitude affects my kids, my wife, my future, I'm going to work at it. But when you're, 19, 22, you just have different stuff on the line. I mean, the older you get, sometimes it can heighten your urgency to make better decisions.
When you talk about work at it, what is working at it or work look like for you? There's a perception of what people would assume your work looks like.
What's that perception? Tell me. You're judging me. I can feel it through my microphone.
I see, I just imagine you lots of TV interviews, lots of celebrity-esque stuff, frequenting TMZ, things of that nature.
Totally. I love that. It's my life, guys.
I'm
my
just
burden.
but like, how do you define work? I mean, I'm sure work for you, when you're talking about it takes a lot of work, you're talking about more than just leading a church. I mean, you're talking about the way that you live life in some ways.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, like my job, our generation's done a pretty good job of redefining what being a pastor looks like.
Yeah.
In many regards, people don't know what that is. So back in the day, people would be like, well, pastors, they just preach on Sunday, and they might have been right. I don't know, I don't know how all church backgrounds were, but I know now the way that we've been taught to run churches, what you see is it's a small percentage, and running an organization, just from the staff to the leadership to the planning, all the stuff, it takes a lot of time. But no, I think I can't even. It's tough to answer. Like our job is to build Hillsong New York City. Love the people in it. So we have a pretty good structure, pretty good team that we love to pour into. Preaching well takes a lot of work, takes a lot of prep, takes a lot of thought. And then I've got a family and my wife that they matter to me more than anything. So I think we all know the dangers of comparing your Instagram to other people's Instagram. Both are wrong. Yours isn't real. The person you're comparing it to probably isn't real. It is what it is. You can take it with a grain of salt. So people who look at somebody's life and the only thing they know about them from Instagram, but yet they have really strong opinions about a person, I always say it's really foolish. You look like you have an easy life, or you look like you have an awesome life. Both are wrong. Yeah. The truth is probably something you have to work to get to know. So I think we try to do the best of showing people the whole scope of our life, which isn't cool and spectacular most of the time, really normal. I don't pick up my kids from school. I go to my office. We have staff meetings. We have dinner at home.
Are you a meetings guy? Do you do a lot of meetings?
What do you think? No, I am not a.
What do you think?
I think we're like efficient meeting people. Like we have meetings that matter, but I think there's a book called Death by Meeting.
Yeah.
Something like that. I've never read it, of course. Read the Cliff Notes, but the title was cool. Yeah, we try to have meetings that matter, and we have a really cool vibe, really good team, really good structure. But yeah, that's my day to day. Sometimes when the spotlight hits your ordinary life, which is how I describe ours, it can just look like something it's not. And if you get caught in a tabloid, thing, or if you have a succession of interviews, people can think that's what you do, and you just gotta let people think what they want to think.
How different, or is it different, what your life kind of looks like now, even just in the day to day, compared to what you thought it would look like in the beginning of this journey? How diverse are those pictures?
You know what? That's a good question. When I broke my finger, like I keep bringing it back to that.
This is becoming
it's not that big of a deal.
Point of this.
It's not that big of a deal. So it's a good question. So I'll break it down like this. So Ephesians 3:20, which I read last night, to your awesome church. I think I've never been surprised at anything God has done, but I've been surprised at everything, which seems like a paradox. But my point has always been, if Ephesians 3:20 is real, and this is good for anybody listening who's even on the fence with Christianity, or maybe they've been in for a long time, either way, if that's real, God is able to do more than you could ever ask, imagine, or dream, then that means prepare for a really wild ride, because you can have your dreams, your vision, and your goals. But if that verse is real, they better be in pencil. Whatever stuff you're writing out on your vision board better be easily erasable. And so our thing was, all right, we're going to serve everybody we can. And so people ask me now, can you believe that some of the scope of people we've been able to serve? And I'm like, no, but yes, I believe Ephesians 3:20. Can you believe a dude from Virginia ended up in New York City? No, but yes. Yeah. Because I'm well aware who I am, but really aware of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
Can you believe your church is hopefully making a difference? And I would say no, but yes.
Yeah.
So that balance is always like when people are like, did you ever think you'd do what you're doing? I'm like, kind of, because of Ephesians 3:20.
Yeah.
God said that I'll do this with you.
Yeah.
Meaning he'll do way out of capacity things with guys like us, if we can let him. That's my goal.
It comes across sometimes when, even when I hear you talk, that there's a lot of it is just, trusting God and being along for the ride kind of thing. You have other people that you talk to that are very, or extremely to a fault, goal driven, and the goal is this. And when I get to that, then, for you, is it one or the other? Is it both? Like, how do you separate the goal from here's where I'm heading?
Yeah, it's both. I think how you get to that goal, it maybe is the key. So I'm just as goal driven. I think in the past I probably I should have done a better job of talking about the practical side of stuff, because people would say, how does your church grow or whatever, and I would just give really big answers just with a fear of not wanting people to think that we're saying we're I think maybe I should have highlighted more, like we were talking about church structure. There are simple things you can do in a church service to make it better quicker that would help everybody, but I don't think it having like these 10 steps and these 9 goals, I don't think that's what it's about. But I also don't think it's about sitting there and trusting God. It's like, hey, are you going to work hard? No, I'm trusting God. I don't know what these peace symbols are, but they matter.
It's a trusting God symbol.
This means I'm trusting God. So I think the way that we trust him on the way to these goals and stuff, there's peace in there, there's planning, and there's just, God's going to do this. So the striving aspect is what I have a disdain for. When you can just meet some people and everything about them is just like it's like, dude, you're striving and you're pushing. And there's a difference between working your butt off. I'm gonna outwork people to the day I die. Yeah. But I'm not gonna tell everybody about it. Like that's how I ended up playing really high level basketball. Not because I'm good, because I was good, but I would also work 20 times harder than you.
Right.
Beat you to the locker room, beat you to the weight room. So I've always known the value of like outperforming your ability. Yeah. So now I have the peace of God in the middle of it. So sometimes it makes it look easy. That's my goal.
Yeah, it does. For you, what do goals look like for you? For a lot of people, they're driven by status. Everybody's goals are driven by different things. What is a goal for you?
I want to have a big clout profile. A clout profile is when they combine all of your social media stuff and you get a score. And I'm trying
to get that up there.
Trying to cloud it out. I have a friend who has a song called Clout God. He's a rapper coming out of Jersey, and he tried to get me to wear the shirt. And Yali, if you're listening, I love you. I'm not wearing the shirt. I'm like, I'm not wearing anything that says God on it, bro. I'm not like street God, clout God. Anyway, so I think your original question was my.
What is it? Yeah, how do you define a goal? Like, what do your goals look like?
I'm gonna make up stuff right now,
okay?
Because there's gonna be other pastors on here that's gonna make my answers look so bad. Like my goal, my goal is to try to have a really incredible marriage, and I'm not just saying that, and then love my kids, and then teach my staff really well, and work hard on our Sunday thing. I don't have like these big rollout goals because I don't work like that. Yeah. And I think there's some people who don't work like that either, and that's going to encourage them. Other people who are like, oh, well, I'm really goal oriented. Like, do you, whatever you do. I have little goals, but I don't know if I'm created like that. Like, I'll crush what's in front of me. And I think God works the best with me in that regard. So I try to honor my wife and work on my marriage, because if that's right, I do parenting better. And if I'm parenting well, then I go into the staff meeting on Tuesday and I dream bigger and I preach better and I'm more focused. And then if my staff is healthy, Sunday I'm much more engaged. And then so to me it all flows together. So I'm not like pointing at Sunday. Sunday we need to have this many people. Yeah. And then in 7 years we need to have 7 campuses and 7 boroughs in New York City, and we're gonna do it like this. And I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure my wife wants to be with me for another 40 years. Yeah. And then make sure I don't miss it with my kids, because they're gone. Ava's 13. I got her for a couple more years in the house, and I don't want to look back and be like I missed something because I was worried about something that was going to change. She's, so that's my priority with things.
When you talk about parenting, what is the biggest lesson being a parent?
Probably
Just
don't
taught
have
you.
kids. Save
Go
money.
back and don't have kids.
Yeah. Just do something different. Now, parenting to me is, me and Laura are unified. So we've never known what it's like to fight about parenting. And that sounds crazy, but you meet couples who don't agree on how to raise their kids, and it's a total disaster. So you get the mom who's protective and the dad who's this, or the dad who doesn't do anything because he feels guilty, and the mom who has to be the disciplinarian and the everything. Our biggest strength is that we agree on parenting, and we go into that frontier unified. So our kids know we're together. We don't ever disagree on discipline or our roles. Like my role has always been to drop the hammer. Doesn't matter how long I've been traveling, and we've done this since our kids were little. Doesn't matter how much I've been away.
Yeah.
Laura's job is not to raise these babies and be the bad guy and the good guy, and she's always been able to say, well, when your dad gets back, good luck talking to him like that. And so over the years, my kids know that that their mom comes first.
Yeah.
And so that's been a really huge strength. But our kids are awesome. We're honest with them. We try to treat them like who they are, and who they're going to be, rather than try to treat them like kids often. And I've seen that work really well. But we could do a whole podcast on
Right.
how to not have devil children, which we see often. It's like, oh my gosh, like
What's going on there?
what's with your child?
When you talk about you guys being on the same page with parenting,
Edit the devil thing. I don't want that.
When you talk about you guys being on the same page of parenting, is that something that just naturally happened for you guys?
Communication.
Or? Okay.
Like, even
so you
before-
guys talk through that. It's
absolutely.
Not just,
I always ask young couples, like, so what do you guys think about parenting? Oh, well, we'll get to that. And it's like, no, you need to start talking about it now. Like, when we have kids, this is how I think it should be. And then you start seeing early premarital stuff. Okay, good. Glad we talked about this. Like, we had the wife who's like, we're going to co-parent because I'm going to do my career. And the guy's like, career?
right.
You need to raise these kids.
Yeah.
You need to raise these kids.
Yeah.
It's like, so that kind of stuff, you really got to communicate about and work through.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you, in raising kids, when you look at what your kids go through now versus what you experienced growing up, everybody kind of has a different answer to this question, but do you think that there are challenges?
Me and Robert.
Yeah, exactly. You or Robert have differences of opinion on this. But growing up, do you think that their challenges are greater or less than what previous generations had?
Oh, I think harder. Like I just can't imagine what it would have been like. And I struggled like all of us did in high school and beyond with being insecure, trying to please people, temptation. But my kids, like, I don't know what it's like to live through your phone. And I'm like an old school dad, but I've had to really adapt because, like, our kids don't go kick it with their friends per se. Like, they kick it with their friends on like a virtual chat with 7 of them. I'd be like, you need to go hang with your friends. I'd be like, I am, Dad. There's like 19 faces on the phone. You're just like, this generation is so weird. But I don't know what it's like to deal with culture like my kids are having to deal with it. So it sends you to your prayer life, and it just makes you. What you can't do is back up. There's a lot of parents right now that are backing up because they're just so freaked out. I'm going further in.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand my kids, trying to be in their world. And
What does that look like? How do you do?
asking them questions and just being relentless with what I'm passionate about. So like phones, like, Dad, I can't believe you're always checking my phone. Nobody does that. Could care less about nobody. Could care less. Bring nobody here so I can tell him to his face that I could care less about him. That kind of stuff, like sitting on their bed, just, hey, what kind of music did you listen to today? You know, what do those words mean? Who's YG? What is that? What does he stand? What does that name stand for? You know, did you hear what this guy said on the radio? So you love Nicki Minaj? Cool. Do you know what these lyrics mean? And just breaking stuff down and having that constant communication. You could tell your kids on one hand kind of are annoyed by it, but they're not. They love something in their soul finds peace when their dad, you know, is asking questions that matter. So yeah.
What for you talking about things like that? Obviously, being somebody that believes that what you put into your soul matters. Where is that line drawn, and what does that look like? You know, when it comes to culture, and I mean, you influence a lot of people. I think that even you reference. So at the same time, having to coach your kids through things like lyrics and what are you putting into yourself? How do you separate the two, or do you? Or
it's really good. My kids know I need to do a better job. I have over the years of trying to make sure. I think sometimes my response to pushing back towards religion has, I need to be clearer on what my own ratio is sometimes. So sometimes I get so freaked out by Christians just putting themselves in little boxes. It's like, you need to listen to more music. Yeah. And over the years, I've tried to define it to make sure I help people better. But I'm not good enough to listen to bad things a lot. I'm not good enough to have ambiguous standards. So maybe people are better than me, but I know that if I don't have my ratio of 99% soul building, soul uplifting stuff, I can't make it. I don't, from music to television to whatever, I've really tried to know that I need Jesus. I need to have supernatural stuff in my soul all the time, or else I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
But having said that, I've tried to teach my kids, be able to see the good in things, be able to pick the gift out of the mess, be able to look at people who are different than you and try to find what they're good at. So let's listen to Tekashi edited version. Why? Let's talk about why this guy sells millions of albums. Yeah. Let's talk about why he's the hottest rapper in New York City. Like, he's got tattoos on his face, he's got Skittle hair color. Yeah. I don't want you to get tattoos on your face, son. I don't want you to do this to your hair. But why do you think he's good? Well, Dad, his articulation. I can see my son being able to, not being scared by son, he's got tattoos on his face.
Right.
We don't listen to it. Nah,
that's
my
not what
son's
it's
not
about.
rattled by that.
Yeah.
And the same thing with my own kids. So it's like I've tried to teach them through the culture rather than teach them outside of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I wondered about this. Because I don't know that I fully know what I think about it. Do you think when it comes to watching what you put into your soul or what you put yourself around, how much of it has to do with, I guess, the person or personality too? Like, one thing I think about the differences between my wife and I. Like, she can watch evening news or a drama television program that has murder and certain things in it, and it can totally ruin her night. If I watch it, I go right to sleep. Doesn't bother me at all. Do you think that it is affecting us and we don't really realize it?
No,
or do you think it's based upon
I'm the wrong guy to
personality?
ask. I'm sure somebody has analytics and stats on it, and it's like, whatever.
Your opinion.
People are different. Like, I feel like I was trying to teach our church about convictions the other day, about how it's okay to have a conviction, how not to put that off on somebody else. Like, my conviction. It used to be, if it was my way, I was going to preach about it to everybody.
Yeah.
And I still do that to a degree. It's your right as a pastor. But I do think that we make everything kind of through our own little filter. And I think you got to find out what's right for you. Like, I love The Walking Dead. I've been in that show since day one, right?
Yeah.
Some people can't watch flesh-eating zombies. Right. To me, I'm like, it's not flesh-eating zombies. Like, this is filmed in Atlanta. Yeah. I know the lot it's filmed in. That's like mush. That's like putty. It's not. I'm not like watching that going, oh, zombies. My wife freaks her out, so we're not going to watch that at the same time. Like, whatever works for you. I just think taking the stigma off stuff it's just not as big a deal. Sometimes we make it, but you just got to respond to the Holy Spirit. Know your own pace. Know your own soul. And
how does that integrate into things like parenting for you? Like separating virtual from reality and things. Like, my oldest son is into Fortnite and things like that and video games. One conversation that I hear people have is like, is that affecting kids growing up? What do you think about that? Like, is there a separation between the two? Like, how do we gauge and know, like, what you're talking about, depending on your convictions when you're a kid? A lot of times you don't even have those really developed yet. You're kind of formidable. And
it's hard because, like, so my son, he loves video games, and I let him play these games, but not these games. And it's hypocritical to a degree, and I get that. I'm like, son, we're not going to do GTA. But why, Dad? Because I don't want you robbing and stealing, virtually. Right. I don't like GTA. Okay, here's Mortal Kombat, where they're like ripping spines out and like crushing skulls. I'm okay with this, but I'm not okay with that. My son's looking at me like, Dad, I know you're a hypocrite when you parent. But I think that's the tension of trying to, like, it's a lot harder to live conviction spirit led than it is to live rule driven. Yeah. Rule driven doesn't work either. We've all seen kids that are just, the moment they get out of the house, they rebel because all they've ever known is rules. That's why being led by the Holy Spirit, sometimes it's step by step. So I just feel like it requires constant attention and constant connection to Jesus. And so I don't know.
Is there maybe not like a blanket answer for it?
No blanket answer for me, because I just know what it does to his spirit, and I know what stuff does to my spirit. Like I can listen to some songs and it doesn't make me feel like I'm going this direction. I can listen to other songs and I'm like, I don't like what that does to my spirit. I can walk into some restaurants like that, clubs like that. I can go, you know what, this is okay. I think other places no. And I think that's the beauty of being a Christian, is that this Holy Spirit will lead you if you let him.
Yeah. It's interesting because in our society, there's a big conversation based upon issues that we've had even through politics and different things about things like gun control, right? We talk about things like that, which is a loaded conversation. Everybody has their, opinions on what that should look like. When you look, I think a lot of times I think beyond that. I think about, reconsidering gun laws or having conversation about that, especially for adults. I think the ones that are always striking to me are the school shootings that happen at the hands of other children, like people that aren't in a place where they're adults. They're in a very formidable age, and we talk about how disgusting that is and how horrible that is. And at the same time, I again still don't really know what I personally think about. I'm still kind of wrestling with it, but it is also equally interesting that, when it comes to guns, it's a huge part of what kids entertain themselves with. My kids have Nerf guns and play guns and toy guns, and my 3-year-old walks around play shooting, and we don't think anything really of it. Do you think that those things are when we talk about? You're a huge proponent. You have a lot of conversation about the soul, your real person. Is some of that random? Do you think that? And I don't know. I'm not slated either way. Just for conversation's sake, what is kind of your take on some of that? Is there a responsibility, or is it?
Yeah, I feel like anything that is big, anything that's culturally relevant, if you're not putting a narrative to it, somebody else is for your kids. Yeah. So to act like your kids aren't talking about Charlottesville, gun control, school shootings, so if I see something happening, I'm gonna get ahead of it. So when there was a bunch of school shootings a couple months back, or not even maybe last year, I remember I didn't want my kids to get some, God bless the school system and the teachers that are there, but some are whack. And awful, and the way they talk about stuff, it's like, okay guys, if we get attacked in our classroom, here are the steps. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take the reins as the dad and say, hey, look, y'all, this is the world we live in. Yeah. Here's what's happening in school. I don't ever want you to live in fear. I'm sure, so it's your job as a parent to, again, everything comes back to what? Being totally involved, totally proactive, this is parenting. So whether it's racism, gun control, Donald Trump on every TV screen my kids are going to see, whatever it is, we really got to, I remember I heard my Charlie, like Trump came on the news and she had said something just kind of like exasperated. I said, what's up with you being exasperated with the president? And she just said something. And I said, who told you that about the president? And she was like, oh, my teacher said it. I went, really? Although I might have agreed with what I said. So your teacher said that? Okay, interesting. How about you tell your teacher the next time she gives you her political opinion that you're not in there. You're not in there for, tell me about it. I'm going to come in there and talk to your teacher. I could get all aggressive about it. But the point is, I had, that came from somewhere. Yeah. If I want to tell my daughter what we think. I always say that to my kids. If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Yeah. But I just couldn't believe how many voices there are. And you got to be able to run your own household, make sure you get the first word.
Yeah. I guess when I think through it, for me, it comes back to, just more conversation about some of that stuff.
Do you have time to talk to your children? Yeah. Doesn't take a lot, but you have to. What's everybody saying about our president at school? What's everybody saying about the school shooting? Right. What's everybody saying about, and I'm always shocked about the deluge of stuff that comes out of my kids when I fight through the first 5 minutes of them acting like they don't ever want to talk. And there are some dinners where the dinners are awful. Yeah. And I send people to their rooms, and I'm like, our family's breaking at the seams. Nobody was, it's like there are those days as a parent where you feel like nothing's working, nobody's talking, but you do it again the next day. Yeah. You do it again the next day. And after a while, you get a rhythm.
Especially, I guess, because in our society, in American culture, we are the masters of a double standard. Like that's just a part of, we'll laugh at certain comedy and then be mad at people for doing, but this is too much. Yeah.
Right.
Or judge people when it becomes a part of real life. We're not joking about it. We'll watch it on TV, but if it's, somebody in real life, then there's judgment.
Right.
I think in everything, even with what I'm talking about with kids and guns and toy guns, kids shouldn't have guns, but let them play with them as toys. There is part of a double standard in the sense of how we think, but I don't know that. I guess what I'm getting at is you're not going to change some of those things.
No.
Like that's the way. It's the behind the curtain way that our society functions.
Yeah.
And I guess
it's the age of outrage.
Yeah.
Which is what I heard it defined as, and I just refuse to be on my back foot with that. You know, and I feel like we got to be able to talk about stuff and not lose it in the middle of it. And everyone's going to freak out about stuff if we don't give it a voice. So right now our culture looks around. Is anybody mad? Anybody offended? Okay, we can go with this.
Yeah.
Anybody mad? Anybody offended? And it's just like, I'm not living like that. Like I've talked to my daughters about what it's like to be a woman in this day and age and what they have to do to be able to go 2 times better, 2 times ahead. And I said, at the same time, this is how a man should treat you. But I said, at the same time, it's okay if a man says you're beautiful. I'm not buying that. I mean, you can't tell me that I can't tell somebody that they're beautiful. I was like, if you look at a man someday and you're like, hey, you look handsome. Yeah. You're not sexist. And if a man says that to you, he's not necessarily sexist. However, if he says it like this, in this tone of voice, like it's just, again, everything we're talking about comes down to what? Interaction, communication, connection, deposit, withdrawal, all stuff that people don't really want to do sometimes.
Yeah. You just have to be intentional with it.
Yeah.
When you look at, you talk about things like the climate of...
Diet Coke out there?
You love your Diet Coke, don't you?
I need my caffeine.
Grab this man a Diet Coke, would you? You like Diet Coke, though?
That's what I do, like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Don't they say that the diet stuff is not good for you?
What is good for you?
Carrots.
Bananas. Carrots aren't good
greens.
for you. Nah, some of those
radish.
greens will kill you. Some of those greens aren't even natural. You think they came out green?
Well, yeah.
Judge me if you like.
I'm not judging you. I'm
not worried about any of it.
That much is true. Talking about not worrying about any of it, your poor pinky. You really should get that checked out.
Well, I'm in Fresno.
You'll be home soon enough. How do you deal with the heat, the criticism, things like that? You talk about. It seems to me like you really just don't care.
Yeah.
that you're confident in your convictions. Is it as easy as that?
Most of the time, I think it's taken. No, I mean the answer is no. It takes years of rechecking your own security, your own convictions. I always want to have a soft heart. Always want to be compassionate, and I think if you meet anybody who looks like they really don't care, either they're wrong or they've gone the other way with being desensitized. So for me, over the years, like it was definitely a new thing early on at Hillsong NYC to catch a lot of heat. I feel like I've always caught heat from whatever, being a leader in any sphere, but it was a different level with our church, and it was just new for me to feel like that weight of critical judgment, and I have a need to be understood. That's my thing, and that comes from being hopefully a guy who loves to reach people. And so I always am under the impression if I can get 5 minutes with you, we're going to be best friends. And no, it's not like that. Let me explain this to you. That's my passion in life. And then when it becomes about you, you're like, you think what? Like, are you for real?
Yeah.
No. And then it becomes 10, 20. Then you're dealing with thousands of opinions. And you're like, oh my gosh, either I get this, I get peace in this, or I'm going to feel bad a lot. And I think if you know who you are and you know who you're not, what people say about you, it doesn't add fuel and it doesn't add vitriol. It doesn't either way. You just live in the middle. And I always tell people it's not what people say about you. It's who says what about you. So if you have the right people and they are conferring and making sure the right things are who if I want to know who I am, I'm going to talk to the 5 people I trust. Is this true? Is this right? Could this be a real thing? No? Yes? But if that's in line, then you can say what you want. And that's different than being proud. That's not who I am. anybody who says stuff like that, they don't have good friends.
Yeah.
So for me, if you came to me with a criticism, I would never write it off because I'd never want to live that proud. Even if I know right away you're wrong, I'm going to consider what you said. I'm going to take it to heaven, ask the people that I trust, because I just can't know everything about myself.
Yeah.
No, we're not perfect, and I'm going to check it out. And then if you're wrong, cool. But I'm not just going to write you off or just take it verbatim.
Yeah.
So I think with some of the hate, some of the crazy stuff, I also learned in this culture, the classic phrase hurt people is still really true.
Yeah.
And now you can just take random shots at people and they're going to get it. And that's the thing about helping and knowing some celebrities. Like they do hear and read a lot.
Yeah.
And never before in our age have we been like, I could say this to you. I hate you. Your church is awful.
Yeah.
I went to Fresno celebration. The worst. The music was awful.
Yeah.
Like it's like and then it might actually get to the musician.
Yeah.
And then that's a new thing where people just feel like they have the right to just be nasty and critical, and we got to deal with it. So it's taken me a while to make sure my skin remains thick, but my heart remains soft.
And
that's a tough paradox.
And you do that by what? Just with the people around you?
It gets easier over time, for sure. Because if you use it correctly, I mean, we should be making the right people mad.
Yeah. No. Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
oh my gosh! Like sometimes I'm like, ugh, like how come everybody agrees with this thought?
Yeah.
Like I gotta go reevaluate. Like especially when stuff was hot politically, I'm like, some of y'all need to check who's in your political room.
Yeah.
And make sure, look around at who agrees with you. And if you don't like that room, you might want to check your views, right? And that's how it is in life in general. I think you got to make sure that you have the right level of peace and the right level of war in your life. Because anytime as a Christian, if I'm not having those two things in play, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So it gets easier. God brings comfort. And if you understand that every step you take in this life, step forward in your marriage, in your church, it comes with a different wave of opposition. You're gonna be fine. Like we expect some of this.
Yeah. Talking about politics, how do you handle, I guess, that area being a public voice, being someone who, I mean, obviously you're a pastor, but a lot of the things that you talk about or that obviously you fight for when you're fighting for people. There's a lot of political systems that are intertwined that are causing the effect that society is, affected by, or the things that they're going through. How do you draw the lines? Is it beyond for you? Obviously, probably political category.
Yeah, it's tough, bro, because it's prayerful and it's touchy for me because I never want to tell people, in some respects, how to live. But at the same time, that's what a pastor does. So we're trying to help people make the best decisions possible on both sides. So it's like, especially politically, there are some issues that should be pretty clear. Yeah. But those issues are not linked to these issues. Yeah. And your whole life you've thought that voting this way means this, and you could be wrong.
Right.
And you've thought that voting this way means this, and you could be wrong. But let's be thoughtful about every issue that we care about. And our goal is not to tell people how to vote. Our goal is to teach people about who Jesus is and what these kingdom dynamics look like politically. And these are uncharted waters in the United States of America. It's getting weird, and I'm glad to be a Christian in this.
Yeah.
But I just refuse to allow the political climate to be a source of distress and disunity in our church. That's my goal.
How do you think you draw some of the lines as it pertains to, I guess, what Christians should have as convictions, in the sense of everybody kind of casts their vote when it comes to, it seems like everybody, when it comes to a political candidate or somebody in politics based upon a few narrow passion points of theirs. So like for Christians, obviously like abortion is a big one. And whoever is anti-abortion, that's the person I vote for. And they don't look at the slew of other things within the category. Somebody on the other side may be pro-abortion. They have a slew of other things. How do you prioritize what is most important within the context of faith, whether it be abortion or
it's got to be conviction based. And there's so many easy ways to get to some answers on that. So if someone's like, but my thing is, if you really have considered every view and every line of thinking, nothing's simple. Yeah. And we're so used to thinking it's black and white. Well, it's black and white for you. I talked to some guy the other day. He's like, he was really like, I am a person. I'm passionate about the sanctity of life. Like I'm a psalm guy through and through. That's my doctrine. I knew you before I created you.
Yeah.
In your mother's womb. That's our political belief. But this guy was like, I vote for people who are, building these laws. And I'm like, so you're pro-life? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, but the guy you right now are talking about, he's pro-war. We kill people as a country. That's different. Oh,
Yeah.
So you've redefined death
Yeah.
in your mind. So you say you're pro-life, but you're pro-electric chair and you're pro-death in many other sphere.
Yeah.
And the guy had never thought of this logic. And to which I'm like, so it just gets you. You're not necessarily wrong about this issue, but you got to walk that through logically. And now you're starting to open up your mind a little bit to go, okay, cool. I can see why you're like, it's got black and white. Life matters. Well, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It also doesn't. It doesn't matter to you 4 ticks down on
Yeah.
the same ticket.
Yeah.
Because you say you're voting for this guy because life matters, but the same guy is the one who's responsible for capital punishment.
Right.
So what's it going to be? It can't be life. You can't be running on the life issue.
Yeah.
And so my point is just trying to help people at least be more sensitive to other people's understanding of their view, because it's not as easy or as simple as you may think. And even that helps the cause a little bit. Still have your view. Be as passionate as you want, but understand that everybody gets there differently.
How do you draw those lines?
I got to go with my heart. Got to go with my soul. Got to open up my Bible. And I got to look at what Jesus said. And I've got to pray about it and make sure that this is God first, God principles, God's kingdom. And even in disagreement, look at, my wife and go, this is what we believe. And according to our prism of who Jesus is, this is how we have to go. And it's been really difficult at times.
How have you navigated with the current presidency and looking at, it's funny because you see a lot of Christians, the people who have been raised in Christianity and been inundated with it. Most of them think that Christianity is synonymous with Republican, and whoever is the Republican candidate,
It has been.
They can do no wrong, and anything that they do, we get behind it. There's obviously been a parting of ways of that type of ideology in a lot of ways, especially within the church, within this presidency, with certain things that, hey, even though this may be our president, we may be Christians, there's certain things here that we probably need to reconsider. For you being someone that I would imagine has differences with even our current president and how maybe things are done.
Yeah.
And then at the same time having to navigate the waters of of who is our president. How do you kind of navigate through that?
Slowly, prayerfully. I love it. I always, even during the height of like the "not my president" hashtag thing, I love telling people who say that he definitely is.
Yeah.
Not my
He is.
president.
No, he's
100%
your
He
president.
Go violate a law.
Yeah.
You're going to go to not your jail. Not my prison sentence. It is.
No, it's your president.
Let's not get carried away. I didn't. That's your president. We're in the same country. I think. No, I just feel like trying to help people understand where you get your views from, where you get your thoughts from, is everything. And it's crazy right now. There's no balance. There's no middle ground. There's no people think that this guy is the worst human being to ever live, or this guy can do no wrong, or whatever it is. And it just is reflective of our views. We're proud people.
Yeah.
And I keep saying about the president, if he could apologize once in a while, my gosh, who knows what the climate would be like if he could just,
Yeah.
And on both sides of this political thing, if people who think that our president is the worst thing to ever exist, if you could not say that, pull it back, dial it back. If people who think this dude can do no wrong, and if you could pull that back a little bit, like this humility and lack of, I have to be, the loudest voice and the rightest in the room. It just, I don't know. I feel like there's hope because we can do this.
Yeah.
We can still win this, and we're going to, meaning the spirit of our nation. The laws are going to be weird. The White House is going to be weird. The government isn't what we're promised to have be the thing. We're promised to have Jesus in the middle of this storm till the day he comes back. And it's going to get, it's going to probably even get worse and weirder. And that's why our churches have to keep on, rising up and being smart. But my thing right now with the president, I pray for him. I pray that God helps him, changes him, uses him like I do everybody, in severe disagreement on some things. I do also think there are moments where he's made a good decision
Absolutely.
or two. But yeah, I think that I understand why some people are so upset and freaked out and annoyed. And I think it's less about the president; it's more about the people that support him.
Right.
That to me is my understanding in New York. People are like, "No, it's not that." It's like these people are acting like this isn't happening. This is insane. Like I don't even get into some of that stuff. But whether it's from Colin Kaepernick to just the whole chapter of race, it's just unbelievable how people can't see how jarringly unsettling this can be.
That was one that you got involved in that one on social media, didn't you? With Kaepernick.
I did just out of frustration, and that's probably not the wisest thing to do. But I was actually trying to just break it down again for people to say, hey, this has never been an anthem issue.
Yeah.
Okay. It was just Colin Kaepernick was protesting police brutality, like white America.
Right.
White NFL America turned this into an anthem thing.
Yeah.
First of all, the anthem's new. This has never been a long-standing thing in our country. The anthem is an awful song. If you break it down verse by verse, it's horrifically racist. Secondly, taking a knee is a sign of reverence. So, just so everybody knows, this guy, because what somebody said it was about, doesn't change the fact that he goes, in this moment, I'm gonna get our country to just know that I'm passionate about this issue. I talk to more veterans than whoever's listening has. I've talked to more police officers that go, "Nah, we get it," than the critic of whatever this view is. But the point is, if we don't do our homework on stuff, we get hoodwinked quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly, and it's happening with Trump. It's happening with things like Kaepernick. And I was just trying to help people out. Like, hey, you can have your opinion on Cap, but quit saying this is about the anthem.
Yeah.
This was never about that. And I personally believe it's a very noble thing to be able to, stand in the face of any adversity. And I felt like it was a simple thing for me, what Kaepernick was doing.
Yeah.
How is this not simple?
Yeah.
That was my frustration. But I could be wrong. And if someone disagrees, good for them.
Well, it seems most people, we were talking about this a little bit, but most people take information as truth. So anything that they hear on the news,
Well said.
Whoever they hear it from first, this is bad, this is bad. They disagree with, it's bad. They don't know why they think it's bad.
Yeah.
Or they don't know what they believe about the issue. It's that thing that as humans, we don't usually think about what we think about. We don't take time to, why do I have these convictions? Why do I have these beliefs? Why do I...
Yeah. Why
do I feel this way when somebody says something?
One of my friends, he plays for the Giants, and he was at the height of the Kaepernick thing, was just like, can you believe that he's doing this? And I was like, yeah. I said, well, what do you think about it? And everything that came out was information from, a different source. And I was like, here's some more information for you to compute. This is why I think that he's doing this. And that conversation opened up my friend's eyes to his source of information. And I was like, let me put you in touch with some people who think differently about this, because I was actually trying to get him to at least put his arm around one of his black teammates. And I was like, you don't have to believe this, but if I were you, you're a cool looking white dude. People love you. Do something. You don't have to do everything, but here, if I do that, it's going to be this. And got in this big conversation. I was like, let's just talk about where you get your info from.
Yeah.
That guy who you don't understand is actually in your locker room.
Yeah.
Go ask him, because you got a teammate. Go, and sometimes that's what it's like with our neighbors. It's what it's like in our cities. Like, can you believe that? And go find somebody who is in that segment of something you don't understand. Yeah. Just go talk. What do you have to lose?
Really is the power of conversation, and in our society, it seems more and more it's and maybe because it makes us have to be vulnerable, but to be willing to engage in conversation, difficult conversation where you're not just telling somebody what you think, but really going into the conversation with the intention of I want to learn something.
Most people don't want to hear anything. You're really good at this, by the way, because you actually listen. Most people who ask questions, they don't care about what you're saying. Yeah, they are waiting to talk again. Right. I've done a lot of interviews in my life, and to me, I know right away whether I'm going to crush this or not due to what. So give me your phone real quick. I don't have mine out just as a value to you. I don't want you to think that.
Thanks for that.
So sometimes people be like, so what's it like being a celebration in Fresno? Okay, so
going through
what's it?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them, so I can say whatever I want, and I will
They won't
totally
even.
hide every interview, hijack. Like you know, especially if it's like the bigger the interview, the more stressed out the person is, and the more proud they are. So they'll be like, "It's great to have you." They have their whole plan. I can just tell I'm gonna crush this right now. So the moment, because you're not listening to what I'm saying. So they ask me a question. I look at the camera. Our church meets at Hammerstein, Manhattan Center. Services at 9:30. 12:30, just start rolling. Oh, okay. What's your stance on? Hold on a sec. So if you want to come, because you're not listening anyway, and we're on live TV, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna win a live battle all day long. So all that to say, people don't want to listen. Christians want to talk, and if you really read what the Bible says about evangelism, what Jesus did, who they are, I think listening is the biggest weapon we have. But it takes too much work as a Christian to listen.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work.
As a person, it takes, right?
To actually listen and compute information. So tell me your life story. To find out why somebody thinks like they think, could be there for a while. Most Christians are like, I got this answer. I'll crush your view. I can't wait. I can't wait to tell you why you're wrong. And I think if we could just sometimes just patiently listen to people on a lot of things, our world would look different.
It can be frustrating at times, especially when I think as someone who's willing to engage in conversation and passionate about an ideal or something that is big in our society, whether it be conversations on racism or politics or whatever, you begin to get into that conversation. And sometimes when you're talking to somebody, you can almost see that fire light up in their eyes where they were they were listening to you at first, but as soon as you said that, then it's like, I'm ready just to unleash my rage on you, and they don't want to consider anything you say after that, especially with hot topics like racism and things like that people don't even, they don't think about what they're not thinking it through, but they just get like, I have something to say
It's
about
the worst.
this.
Yeah, I can't.
How do you think that? Can you even have conversations with those kind of people, or do you think that they
Well,
have to
because
walk
we're
their
Christians,
journey?
because we're Christians, we can. So I will never lose my faith that in the blink of an eye, God can break somebody's walls down.
That's good.
That's why when people ask about going back to the president, like, how could you ever, talk to, support, whatever? And I'm like, first of all, as a baseline level Christian, I talk to anybody. Because God could use a word. He could use a handshake to drop this guy in the power of God, and who knows what could happen. So right away, we should stop judging anybody for talking to anybody on that level.
Yeah.
But I think that, you're right. When you get people just to be humble in their stance, that's what we're fighting for. Yeah. Here's my view. I could be wrong. Let me break it down. Go ahead. What do you think? What do you lose with being like that? Nothing.
Yeah.
But it shows people are insecure. The more insecure somebody is, the louder and the more defiant, sometimes and the more confining they are. Yeah. Somebody who's really secure, they can listen to everybody because they know I got the last word. I'm going to hold all the cards.
Yeah.
Feel free to give your view. I am not threatened by you whatsoever. But if I'm always up like this, I apparently think you're going to attack me.
Right.
So I got to really come at you. Or sometimes I talk to people and go, "Why are you so aggressive right now? Like, what's wrong with you? And like, what are you so insecure about? Like, what are you? I'm fine. I totally. It's like, chill out. Yeah. You're good.
And part of it is probably, I haven't thought about that much before. What you're saying, I think even for those that are wanting to have conversation, being mindful of your approach at the table, being mindful of your approach of even what it is that you're wanting to talk about and how it could make the other person feel based upon their background.
You hit it on the head, and you could do a whole thing on that. I always tell people there's a couple of little phrases you can use, like "if I may." If you ever add that to we should do a whole thing on little things make a big difference. But if I may I share my for sure. Yeah. That's a lot different than where you're from.
Right. Yeah. That's so true.
Let me tell you something about you. If I may, from what I know,
the
whole conversation is different. What happened? My view didn't change, but my approach. Where do y'all get that from? Well, some guy sitting at a well. You do have a couple of husbands. Yeah. Matter of fact.
Yeah.
My favorite paradigm shifter is Jesus talking to that special woman at a well. knowing that he created her mind, let alone knew the answer she was going to give, but still asked these crazy leading questions.
Right.
And yet we don't have time to do this. It's crazy to me, but I love it. That's why I love being a Christian. I got a really good blueprint of how I can be effective in a very crazy, diverse culture.
Yeah. You talk a lot about conviction. It's been kind of like a reoccurring theme in what we talked about today. I want to ask you about this because this is something I've been personally kind of trying to work through or understand. The idea of conviction, when we talk about conviction as believers, people with faith in God, a lot of times we're talking about like the Holy Spirit within us. We're talking about God convicted me on the inside. If we had to boil that down to talking with somebody that has no context of your belief system, well, what do you mean that this conviction? It would boil down to, for a lot of people, in a lot of ways, some sort of a feeling, some sort of a gut, intrinsic, internal feeling, passion, whatever.
Yeah, it's it's more than a feeling, because conviction sometimes often includes feeling, but sometimes it doesn't. That's why you're on very shaky ground if all your convictions include feeling, because my best convictions have no feeling. That's how I know it's a conviction. Like, my conviction doesn't feel good, but is right. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't have peace with that. Don't use peace. Don't bring peace into this.
Yeah.
What you mean is you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, but if God was in it, wouldn't I have peace? Peace is different than you think. Jesus had peace in the garden, but he didn't want to die, go through this awful death, yet he did it. Conviction, to me, if someone's listening, like, how do you build my convictions? It can't be what you feel.
Yeah.
It has to be what you see in God's word, and then it has to be what you say. So can I see it in God's word, and can I say this? Can I live with this? Can I stand on this? And it's not, to me, it doesn't have to be harder than that. If the conviction you hold doesn't match up with the Bible that you read, you've got ideas and feelings, and you're wrong. And you're setting your life up on a wrong foundation. But a lot of people have feelings that don't match up to what the Bible said.
Yeah.
So it just takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of wisdom.
What about people of different faiths?
I don't talk to them. Can't stand them.
That we know.
Yeah.
Outside of Christianity, I mean, you take any religion, Mormonism or something where somebody has what they would call conviction about their faith. What separates their conviction from your conviction, as far as on a human level? Like, what you feel, what you know, because you said what you feel, but then there's also this thing of what you've been taught and what has been what we would call like revelation to you. If the person on the other side of that fence feels the exact same way and is just as passionate about theirs, we had this conversation about conviction. How do you separate the two? Or?
Mine's easy, because I mean, you have your conviction, and I have mine. So my conviction is for instance, in this case, is Jesus is God. He is the way, the truth, the light. Your conviction is something different, but my conviction also includes still loving you, still being friends with you, still fighting for you, still praying for you, still standing my ground as I'm going to be here till the day God brings me home, trying to let you understand my conviction. So some people believe the conviction shuts the door. I believe it opens it. And we're not wrong about some of the belief systems, like, because there are faith systems out there that teach you to walk away if somebody is not believing what you believe. But our conviction should open more doors than close them.
Do you think what they called their conviction is the same thing as what you call your conviction?
I mean, down to the deepest level of the word, yes, because a conviction is literally just a deep, concrete belief in something. So yeah, they have a conviction in this. It's similar. It's just a different thing that they're anchored to. Yeah. So conviction basically is what anchors you to something. And they're anchored to a different boat. And the only problem is we find out whose boat's right in storms.
That's a good way to put it. Who's right in storms, meaning what you go through in life.
Death. Sometimes it's too late. You find out that you tied something to the deck wrong in a storm. You lost it.
That's a great way of putting it.
So I often tell people, cool, your conviction right now is that. Good luck. Wow. You're going to find out if it's real maybe too late. A lot of people, their conviction is, hey, this is what I believe, the universe. I give good energy out. universe will bring good energy in. That's your conviction. Cool.
That's such a great way.
When that falls down,
yeah,
I'll be here, because my conviction teaches me that Jesus is great, is a perfect God. There's no energy in, energy out thing. So I'm not waiting for that storm. I'm going to give the best I can, but life is going to throw crap the rest of my life, because that's the fallen world we live in.
Yeah.
Your conviction says differently. You're not going to find out till the rain hits the deck.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a cold day.
That's a great way of putting it. And it really puts you on a journey too. If you're because conviction, more than a feeling, even more than a belief, but it's what you're anchored to, what you're saying. So even the things we were talking about in the beginning, things that you think may be convictions, the real test is if they stand the test of time through life and the storms that you go through. Right?
Yeah.
Would you say that, I mean, have your convictions evolved and changed as time has gone on? Is there certain ones that didn't outlast?
What time is it, by the way?
We got about 3 minutes.
I gotta go to the bathroom. That's what I was asking. Too much information. Yes, my convictions have changed for sure, and that freaks some people out. And I think that that's okay. I think what I mean by that is, I still passionately believe what I've always believed, but we should be growing in our conviction, and we should be growing in our faith, and that's why everything's there. The way that Jesus led shows me that it's okay. There's room for me on this journey. Like, I'm passionate about what I believe right now, but I'm also open to God opening my eyes again. You know, and that's where I try to live. So I'm just going to do my best right now, be as passionate as I can, have these convictions, with the caveat that, you know what, I don't know it all. God could open my eyes and redirect my life, and I don't think it's going to be doctrinal. I think my convictions are the same there, but when it comes to some things, like I remember when I was a youth pastor, killing some kid in my youth ministry for having a MySpace account. Killing him. How could you do that? That stuff is so weird. Yeah, I was so mad at him. I just knew nothing about it. Yeah. And now I look back on that. I tried to track that kid down and be like, my bad, bro. Okay. Like, you were fine. You're just ahead of the curve.
Way ahead of the curve.
So now, as I have moved forward in life, I always remember that moment of, like, MySpace, it's the devil. Like, how could you have a profile? What are you, some creep? No, it's not a profile like that. It's just the name of no, you're wrong. Yeah. You're compromising.
Yeah. It's compromise.
So I just, now I think about stuff like that as I live my life as an adult, as a pastor, and yeah.
When you talk about doctrine changing, for those that may not know what you mean when you say doctrine, what do you?
Foundational elements of our faith, what the Bible says, who God is, who Jesus is, doctrine of why we believe we're saved in the first place, who can be in heaven, who can be in our churches, who can. These are doctrinal issues.
Good. I'll ask one more thing and then we'll wrap up. As your, I'm just wondering, as your life has changed and evolved, or I guess as your influence has expanded, you're very good at being sincere and genuine when you're around people. Very good at that. How do you do? Is that a challenge for you at all, given your profile? Do you feel like people sometimes want to be around you because of who you are versus or who you know versus how it used to be, or when people? And how
it's hard because what's changed over the years is how people see you. Sometimes people will say, this person's changed. I'm always like, I don't know if that person's changed. I think the way people view them has, and I felt that a little bit just because it's just weird for me to have a life where people put you in a weird space, and that happens with a bigger church as well. People think you're somebody that's, just removed from them. And it's not even a disrespectful thing. It's just like, oh, you don't have time to worry about this. And I know you got other stuff on. I hate when people premise questions like that. But I try not to get overwhelmed with all the stuff going on in any sphere, and just try to stay true to who we are. So how do I like to be treated? I like for people to look me in the eyes and ask me questions that matter. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And how do I want to be treated? Well, I don't like it when people just blow by me in the hallway. Yeah. So do my best. I can't be perfect and get it all done, but I can try to stay true to my convictions, which is to treat people like they matter, because they do. And it's simple enough.
Being that people would sometimes maybe have the wrong motivation in wanting to know you, be around you, be close with you, do you find it harder to trust new people?
Nah. No.
Not at all?
No, because everybody has weird motives. I have weird motives. That's why we need Jesus. Like, I don't think someone's good enough to like be able to
Evaluate
hustle
them,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not worried about you. I'm not gonna like. Well, I'm not worried about every person. Like, do you have the right motive? Like, no. Like, if you are good enough to weasel your way into something, God will weasel you out. Like, I can't live my whole life like
That's good.
Is this guy for real?
Yeah.
Like, are you
Right.
I have felt the sting of being used. And then I'm like, it is what it is. Move. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to wonder if I give you this handout. Wait, do you think this is going to be forever? Like, I'm not doing that now. If I got $100 and you need it, I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
I don't care if I didn't realize you've been saddling up to me for months because you thought I had money or something.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think like that. I want to stay like that.
Yeah.
And I think the Holy Spirit can be our guide with that.
That's good, man. Good. Well, I'll let you use the rest. Appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate you.
With a broken pinky and all.
This is the gospel, man. This is the price. This is ministry. You know?
That's a really crooked finger. I'm just gonna
Love
tell
you, my
that
brother.
right
It's
now.
a pleasure, man. It's
Love
a
you
pleasure.
too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fresno. Out.
That's right.
Mic drop.